Hi, Gary DeWall here, and this is another Bridging the Week for July 8th through 12th, and today is July 15th, 2013. Good morning. Well, the expected apocalypse regarding the expiration of the CFTC's cross-border exemptive order scheduled for July 12th never arrived. Why? Because a revised exemptive order granting further delays was put in place on July 12th, effective July 13th. This was all after a last-minute cross-border accord was reached between the European Commission and the CFTC on July 11th. As reported elsewhere on my website, on July 11th, the EC and the CFTC agreed to implement their respective rules in a manner to address conflicts, inconsistencies, and uncertainty in the application of EMIR, which is the European equivalent of Title VII, and Title VII to cross-border swap transactions. To accomplish this, the EC and the CFTC agreed on a few overriding principles, but the biggest walkaway was an agreement to rely in general on substituted compliance for entity and transaction level rules. Likewise, foreign boards of trade that might otherwise have had to qualify as a designated contract market or swap execution facility under CFTC rules are likely to be approved for direct access by U.S. persons for swaps trading without registration, provided such entities already are permitted to offer futures and options trading to U.S. persons on a direct access basis. It appears that equivalent recognition for qualified non-USA central counterparty clearinghouses is also in the cards, freeing them up from registering with the CFTC as designated clearing organizations once a distinction regarding initial margin coverage between the U.S. and Europe is resolved. This could be important steps to harmonizing cross-border access to swaps trading and clearing, as already is the case in the futures world. Let's follow this space. The following day, July 12th, the final interpretive guidance in an exemptive order regarding compliance with certain swap regulations was passed by the Commission. In general, the final guidance will define U.S. persons, including the context of hedge funds, and discuss when substituted compliance might apply to non-U.S. entities, as well as how such entities might seek application for substituted compliance in the first place. As soon as the final guidance is published, I will do a special edition of Bridging the Week, although I'm not sure what I will call it yet, in order to highlight its components. Separately, the exemptive order, the new exemptive order, which was published in full, grants from July 13th to 75 days after the final guidance is published in the Federal Register for all market participants to apply the CFTC calculation provisions to assess whether they need to be registered as swap dealers or major swap participants using the new definition of U.S. person. Any person required to register as a swap dealer after the final guidance is published must do so by 2 months after the end of the month in which such person exceeds the de minimis threshold, currently $8 billion US dollars. Also after the 75-day delay, non-US swap dealers and major swap participants will be required to comply with the CFTC's mandatory clearing requirements for certain swaps that were stayed by a January 2013 order. Under last week's exemptive order, non-US swap dealers and major swap participants in Australia, Canada, the EU, Hong Kong, Japan, and Switzerland may delay compliance with most entity and transaction level requirements for which substituted compliance will be possible until the earlier of December 21st, 2013, or 30 days following the issuance of a substituted compliance determination. Foreign branches of a U.S. swap dealer or major swap participant in these jurisdictions may also take advantage of substituted compliance in connection with certain transaction level requirements under the same time period. The final guidance passed the CFTC 3-1 with Commissioner O'Malia dissenting. In his help to potential litigants, Commissioner O'Malia argued that while the plain language of Title VII says that the CFTC swap authority shall not apply unless non-U.S. activities have a direct and significant connection with activities in or effect on commerce of the United States, the final guidance treats this language impermissibly as a tool to expand the CFTC's authority, not to limit it. He also argued that despite the inclusion of a 75-day comment period in the exemptive order, the process that led to the issuance of the order blatantly ignores the requirements of the Administrative Procedures Act. Commissioner Weechin voted in favor of the guidance and exemptive order, but noted that more time might be necessary to permit compliance. Again, when the final guidance is published, I will do another video piece on this important matter. Separately, this week, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange resubmitted to the CFTC its advisory notice providing guidance on its prohibition against wash trades. CME had previously submitted this notice pursuant to a process of self-certification with an anticipated effective date of July 1st. Now the CME is seeking CFTC approval of the new guidance with a proposed effective date of September 9th. This advisory contains important information for proprietary trading groups as well as other market participants. I have details on the substance of this notice and its convoluted history on my website. Check it out. And not this week, but on June 28th, the BASEL Committee on Banking Supervision issued a consultative document seeking views on potential changes to the capital treatment of banks' exposures to central counterparties. BASEL is hoping that its proposed changes ensure banks' exposure to CCPs are adequately capitalized while preserving incentives for central clearing. There had been concerns that interim standards implemented during July 2012 led to instances where too little capital was held against exposures to some CCPs, as well as higher charges in some cases for cleared than for bilateral transactions. Comments are due by September 27th. And finally, this week FINRA and various security exchanges announced a complaint and simultaneous settlement of a comprehensive matter involving my former employer, New Edge USA, in the area of securities direct market access. Since the events at issue coincided with my time there, it would not be appropriate for me to comment on them. But take a look at the complaint. There are clearly some very important lessons to be learned. Well, that's it for now. Come back to my website later this week after the CFTC publishes the final guidance. Until then, or until next week, this is Gary DeWaal and Bridging the Week. Have a great week.